What's good, y'all? Welcome to another video, man. Yes, y'all boy been staying consistent, you feel me? So hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. And if you're new to the channel, my name is Narelle. I talk about mental health, I talk about relatable content, and I just be real and authentic on here, And as y'all can see from the title, I also wrote it down in my notebook. What I learned from failing more than once, you know? What I learned from failing more than once. And, I could talk about this all day because somebody like me, I took a lot of L's, bro. I took a lot of L's. I failed many times. And even doing this channel, you learn so much from failing. But, I learned so much from failing. It's crazy, bro. And to me, right, you only fail when you stop trying. To me, you only fail when you stop trying because that's literally because when you think about it, it's a lot of people out here that could really be failing, if they just stop trying. They could really be a failure. Everything could just tumble if they just stop trying. So the main thing to learn and to know is when you stop trying, that's when you fail. Because as you try, in this thing we call life, you're forever going to be learning. Nobody has life figured out. Nobody. You're never going to figure life out. You're never going to know how to stay at the top. You're going to forever learn, and you only learn by continuously failing, When you winning, being successful, things working out for you, it's nothing but joy, It's nothing but happiness. It's nothing but more hunger for another win, another more hunger for more success, But when you lose, you think about that loss. You sit on it for a while and you just be like, man, you dwell on it. What could I do to win, And that's what makes winning so worth it. How worth it would winning be if there was no failure, So sometimes you gotta ask yourself that. Let me get back to what I was saying. You only fail when you stop trying, And you learn so much from failing. You don't learn nothing from winning, but you learn something from failing. So, in this thing called life, you're gonna have to pivot a lot. You're gonna have to make a lot of adjustments. You're gonna have to adapt to a lot of mess. You're gonna have to endure a lot. But main thing, you're never gonna stop learning. And you only do that when you change your perspective, Change your perspective. You are not a failure, To anybody watching this, you are not a failure. Your life could be in complete shambles, bro. But if you change your perspective and continue to try, bro, I'm telling you, a lot of people, they think their life jacked up. They think their life messed up, bro, when they literally just stop trying, Sometimes instead of taking that step, we allow that step to make us afraid to stand on it and to conquer it, But we dwell so much on taking that step. And somebody like me, I'm gonna speak for myself, where I used to overthink, I used to just look at, dang, bro, if I could just do this, and when I used to look at my goals, bro, it was hard because it's just like, how can I do this, I used to look at my goals and be like, bro, I can't do it, I used to allow my goals to create fear in me, because I just felt like I couldn't do it. But then, right, what I had to do was I had to adjust and I had to pivot to life. Because in life, you're going to have pain. In life, you're going to have losses. So I told myself, if I could adjust to the negativity, I can endure and continue to win. You get what I'm saying? And that's what you have to do in order to continue to win. And you have to get used to failing, You have to continue to get used to pivoting and adjusting, because life is going to take its turns. You know, you're going to have to take a different route on things. You're going to have to do different things. But if you're willing to not give up throughout all that, you're going to forever win, bro, you know? And that's what I'm learning, bro. You know, I have to be willing to lose sometimes, you know? Nobody likes losing, bro. But you learn something if you change your perspective. Now, some people lose, but they don't learn anything. But there's other people who does lose, and they learn something. Why? Because they change their perspective on losing. You know, bad things can happen to you, bro, and you could look at it as a positive thing, because not everything that's bad and not everything that's good, you know, like y'all get what I'm trying to say. But basically, like, not everything that's negative, you know, not everything that seems negative that's happening to you is a negative thing. And not everything that's a positive is a positive thing. You get what I'm saying? So sometimes you really have to be sharp on your perspective, but you mostly have to be willing to lose, you know? You have to be willing to make mistakes. You have to be willing. It just, you know, when you think of success, you have to just know what you're getting yourself into. Think of losing 100 times, and on the 120th time, you got a W waiting for you, you know? Or maybe you could lose 99, but that 100, you're going to win, you know? So when you think about success, think about losing first, and think about how long you are willing to lose, and think about, you know, the things you're going to do once you win. Because there's a lot of people who win and they forget. There's a lot of people who win and they forget that, you know, winning sometimes is just a season, you know? And then losing can happen anytime, you know? So, you know, it's easy to make mistakes, and it's easy to just fail. You know, it's easy to fail, and you just have to be willing to take it on the chin and get back up. As long as you don't give up, bro, you're going to win. So you have to be willing to lose more than once, you know? And that's what I'm fully understanding. Be okay with losing. Be okay with falling on your face. But be even more hungry and getting back up, you know? Be even more hungry with taking that L and pressing forward, you know? This doesn't just work with making money. This works with, you know, building endurance. This works with your character, you know? When I think about success, I'm not just thinking about money. I'm thinking about my mindset, my endurance, you know, my persistence, you know? How do I handle adversity, you know? And, you know, I don't think about materialistic things when I think about success. I think about how I can handle the life lessons and the losses that come my way, you know? Because strong people go through strong things, and you're going to be tested, you know, whether you want to or not. This life is going to test you. You have to be willing to endure. Especially, you know, as a male, you want to take care of your family. You have to be willing to lose sometimes, but to make sure everybody else is okay, you have to be willing to sacrifice. And, you know, I'm really preparing myself to just get laughed at, you know, take L's, be okay with that, you know. And I want y'all to see the progress, and I want y'all to also take notes of this too, you know. Be okay with things not going well for you, but be even more hungry and not giving up, you know. As long as you don't give up, you can win. It's just that simple. As long as you don't give up, you can win. You know, so stay hungry, stay disciplined. Most importantly, keep God first, because you can lose, but you're not going to be able to take every L on your own, you know? You really need God endurance. You really need God's strength no matter what nobody tell you, you know? Only He can prepare you for what's coming, you know? So stay prayed up and, you know, stay focused. And, yeah, stay hungry. I love y'all, and I'm going to catch y'all in the next video.